That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, front page, Journal de Montréal, Francois Legault scratching his head in, trying to wonder what's going on, I guess. Yeah.
Hey, listen, before
Yes,
I go
sir.
any further, I got to conjure up a radio, radio's the theater of the mind, so I got to conjure up an image. You ever see, like, in a Western where things are getting out of hand in the saloon, and some guy stands up on a table and fires a shotgun down to the ceiling? That's me right now, here, right now.
Okay, yeah.
Everyone calm the hell down, all right? First of all, 18 to 34, support for sovereignty, 48%. Holy moly, that's 30 points higher than a year earlier. The thing is, 52% in that same survey, 52% of the same demo are against sovereignty. 72%, 35 to 54, 65, 55 and over. Don't worry about sovereignty, folks. It ain't going to be happening. And indeed, I've seen the PECs have been trying to spin this in their favor. They must be crying tears of blood because sooner or later they're going to have to ante up. And they're not going to be able to do so because, frankly, even if this was real, and I don't believe that it is, and with all due respect to Legault, and even they, at the bottom, they also have that thing. They say, it's possible there's a margin of error 19 times out of 20. Mm-hmm. This could be the 20th time, okay? And I say this with all due respect to Legault simply because if you look at some of the other questions that were asked of the 18 to 34 demographic by the same pollsters, things don't exactly add up. Oh. If you look at party popularity, the overall, the PQ has got 30%, just 2 points ahead of the Liberals under Pablo Rodriguez. And this is like, this is within the margin of error. This is incredible. So let's see. I mean, clearly there must be a lot of support from the. Oh, wait a second. 18 to 34. Only 23% of that demo supports the PQ. 22% support the Liberals, and 23% support Quebec Solidaire, which, granted, is a sovereignist party, but only enjoys 9% overall of support. So, and on top of everything else, I got to get this off my chest, Aaron. After 4 decades of covering the famous or infamous 18 to 34 demographic when it comes to voting patterns, the real headline on this story is demographic that never gets off its ass to vote for anything whatsoever expresses an increased interest in Quebec sovereignty. So like everyone just take a deep breath, wait for the next poll. But even if the numbers we have to look at, the numbers we've always had to look at, whether we like it or not, is the Francophone vote. So the Liberals with Rodriguez, they're only 2 points behind the PQ with Plamondon. However, when you get to the Francophone vote, the PQ's got 38%. The Liberals, they got 18%. It's pas bon, so, okay? They're trailing by 11 points in the Quebec regions, the Liberals versus the PQ. They're getting smashed 35 to 19 in the Quebec City area. Only in the Montreal area are the Liberals leading. They have 33% compared with 27 for the PQ, which is not exactly a big gap. It's kind of sort of semi-neck and neck. And once again, my takeaway on these numbers is yes, Mr. Rodriguez has arrived. But I think what we're seeing in these increased numbers is perhaps the good voters between, St. Anne de Bellevue and, St. Laurent have said, oh, whoa, there's a new leader for the Liberals. This seems interesting. And there might be some interest peaked elsewhere in the province. But, listen, this could be on the money, but I'd rather wait for another poll to show up to see if this lasts. As we always point out on the show, my God help us, we have more than a year left of the next election, so a lot can happen. But please, folks, these numbers, so far in advance of anything resembling a vote, should be taken with several metric tons of salt. The only thing that I really find fascinating in this survey, and it's the big question, I think it is the question of this poll, should Francois Legault stay or go? 50% across the board say he should go. I believe he will go. He's announcing tomorrow, I guess, the date of the by-election in Arthabaska. I'm sure the issue will be raised. I'm sure he'll continue to repeat his cassette, Aaron. He'll dig his heels in and say, I am going to seek a third term. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll especially believe it after the Arthabaska by-election. We'll see how that plays out as well, where you might see James finally sent to the National Assembly. That could throw a spanner into the works for everybody as far as I'm concerned. I think there is as we saw in 2018, there is a genuine hunger for a way out of this Groundhog Day of separatism versus federalism versus yes versus no. Clearly, the CAC, people thought the CAC had it. They don't. They never did. And we can only hope, I think, as all of us as Quebecers can only hope that the damage that this party of populist incompetence has done, the normalization of discrimination that occurred under the Legault government, is quickly effaced by whatever party takes power. Once again, I've got my fingers crossed as I'm saying that. But, I think the real issue now is how long will Francois Legault pretend he's not limping and quacking and is a lame duck premier, and how long before he leaves, and then who will take over? What controls, if any, will be put on this government, which thus far has seemed very, very uncontrolled in terms of what it's been doing and the amount of money that it's been wasting. But, we'll have to wait and see. But right now, welcome to the show, Mr. Rodriguez. Enjoy yourself. Let's see what you got. But as I say, until these numbers start to turn around for the Liberals with Francophone voters, I would hold my applause for a triumphant return of the Quebec Liberal Party to power.
Jim, I'll be honest, I like that image of you walking into that saloon, hopping up on the table and firing that shot that bring everyone's attention. I think that's a wonderful image.
Yeah.
I would also point to what you said originally when the first set of numbers, I guess it was the Palace data poll that came out that showed the Liberals already just based on Pablo Rodriguez being the leader. And, you basically said he's just a shiny new thing. It's understandable that would happen. So maybe that just carries over to another poll.
Listen, anything is possible. As I say, Legault, a lot of people point the finger at Legault, and I disagree. I think they're on the money more often than not, and this is not how they make their money. They make their money, selling widgets for companies and doing market research, and they've got to be right on this, because if they're wrong, it's going to cost them money in the real world. But I just think that sometimes an anomaly can occur. And I think that's what we're seeing, certainly with this 18 to 34 demographic. But even then, Aaron, it's like, I think the bigger story here, and we've had this conversation in various forms before, I think the electorate of Quebec is so tired, so desperate to hear a new voice, a different voice, not maybe the same promises, but perhaps differently expressed, more realistically expressed, and not expressed as the way Francois Legault has done, that, you need me because everyone's against you. You need me because you can't look after yourself. This idea that these self-appointed guardians of Quebec's culture and future and language is so preposterous in 2025. But all that said, I don't think we've heard it yet. Maybe we will between now and next October, or perhaps the spring if Monsieur Legault decides to hang on and pull the trigger early and just go for broke. But right now, all I see in Quebec's political landscape, Aaron, is a lot of tumbleweeds blowing by and not a whole hell of a lot of change.
So I want to just really quickly touch on what you brought up about Arthabaska. We're imagining that they'll be called tomorrow. This is significant, I guess, only because it seems the CAC's been entirely left out of this conversation to begin with, right? This is PQ and Conservatives.
Yeah, and the PQ and the Conservatives, and we'll see. There might be, who knows, there might be a change, but now it looks like the CAC is, some people are saying it's going to be a trio areas. I don't think so. The CAC announced their candidate today, whose name escapes me. I know he worked within the party, and I apologize to the candidate. I just don't have his name in front of me right now. So that will sort of justify, I guess, Mr. Legault's meeting with the press tomorrow to say, listen, this is when the by-election is going to be held. But I really think you're going to see, you may hear things, I think, in this campaign, Aaron, this by-election campaign, that may foretell what we can expect to see in October or perhaps the spring of next year. We'll see themes arriving there. And please don't think the CAC, and even I would presume Monsieur James himself, are not going to be hammering away like a blacksmith on an anvil on the PQ's promise to hold a referendum to really see if the idea of Quebec sovereignty will sell in Arthabaska, which used to be a PQ stronghold. But guess what? If the last 8 years have taught us anything whatsoever, nothing is a stronghold. And as I say, I think people are really, really desperate for change, and they're really, really anxious to hear perhaps alternatives to the usual threadbare, political philosophies that have been, anchors around our necks for the past 50 years.
All right, Jim, I thank Kevin Brasseur is the CAC candidate in Arthabaska.
My apologies to Monsieur Brasseur.
That's
Bonne
okay.
chance.
All right. Jim, thank you.
À demain.